This video will absolutely change the way which you think about vents in your RV's holding tanks. Hi everyone, I'm Chris, certified RV technician for Unique Camping and Marine. RV vents are used to remove odors inside of them, but they also have another very important task. In this video, we will be going over how vents work, why they need to be flowing properly, and what you can do to maintain them if you happen to run into any problems. Let's get started. All RV holding tanks are vented. Black and gray water holding tanks are typically vented at the roof line of the RV, and they're also typically capped. This will keep debris from getting inside, as well as animals from building nests inside of them. For the freshwater vent, it is usually in a void space inside of the RV, or it is vented right next to where you fill the tank up with water. This is typically only a ½ piece of hose, which is used to help with displacing the air as you are filling the tank, whereas the black and gray water holding tank vents are usually 1½ inches to 2 inches in diameter and allow for airflow into and out of the tank. This is to allow for odors to be pressed out of the holding tank as liquid is added into it, but it also allows air to travel freely into and out of the tank. And when liquid is added into any of the holding tanks, it will help to displace the air so it keeps the holding tank from expanding. For demonstration purposes, we used dry ice and then capped off the vent in order to show exactly what happens as waste is off-gassing inside of a black water holding tank. Under no circumstances do we recommend doing this at home. This was for demonstration purposes only. We recommend checking your vents anytime which you are up on the roof to do normal maintenance. This is typically done about once a year when you are checking on the sealant and the roof in general. It's a good idea to take the caps off and just check for any debris which might be inside of there in order to avoid having clogs in your vents in the future. There are a variety of different types of vent caps which can be installed on an RV. Some of them are more of a wind vane style, whereas other ones are just caps that keep debris out from there. And then there are other ones which are actually motorized, have a little solar panel on top. It's important that we mention these just so you know what to look for when you are up on the roof. And it's also important to note that some of these are just held on with friction as it is pressed into place, whereas others are screwed down and need to have a screw or multiple screws removed in order to remove the vent cap to check the vent itself. RV holding tank vents can be blocked by a variety of different debris. The black and gray water tank vents are oftentimes blocked with leaves, cottonwood fluff, dust, and other debris, whereas the typical thing which we see in freshwater vents is usually spiders' webs or some other nest created by an insect. Where you park your RV may lead to temporary blockages. For example, if you happen to be parking down in some sort of a valley and there's a berm hanging out over where you parked your RV, this may cause a temporary blockage in either the black or gray water holding tank vents. And if you find yourself parking underneath a tree, the leaves may cause a temporary blockage. If you are a full-timer and you are staying in one location for a long amount of time, there has also been bird nests which have been made up in and around the vent areas, which can cause a temporary blockage. And then there are other times of where the RV has left the manufacturer, and instead of the vent being fully daylighted outside of the RV, it is simply pressed up against the roof line. And in this case, which is definitely the most rare, you will typically need to have a professional cut a hole in the roof of the RV in order to allow the vent pipe to leak. Some ways that you might tell that you have a clog in your vent line would be that when you go to flush the toilet, you get an overwhelming odor coming out of the toilet. This might mean that your vent is clogged and is no longer allowing airflow out of it, and therefore when you go to open the toilet valve to flush it, you're getting a big blast of odor coming out of the tank instead of letting it go through the vent in the roof. For the freshwater holding tank, if you are filling up the tank and it's not filling up as quickly as you've expected, or if you are getting more water spurting back out of the fill tube quicker than you expected, then you might have a clog in the vent for the freshwater tank. If air is not able to be displaced out of the fresh tank, it will also not fill up completely. So these are some signs to look for if you believe that you may have a clog in one of your vents in your RV. Since RV holding tank sensors can be temperamental, we have heard of a great many RVers who rely on a gurgling / bubbling noise to let them know when their Blackwater holding tank is completely full. What is actually happening is that the water line has reached up and is blocking off the vent pipe, and that is what is causing this bubble and gurgling sort of sound. This works pretty well unless there is an additional blockage inside of the vent line pipe, at which case you will still be getting this gurgling sound even if the holding tank is not completely full. If you suspect that you have a blockage inside of one of your vent pipes, you can clear this blockage by running a piece of 1/2-inch PEX down through the vent after you have removed the vent cap. Alternatively, you can use a garden hose and run water down the vent, and this will knock free most debris which would be caught inside of the vent pipe, and it will drop it into the gray or black water holding tank, depending on which one you're trying to clear, and should typically be pretty easy to be washed out of the tank when you go to dump it next. Be forewarned that if your vent becomes completely clogged, you will experience extremely slow drainage from either the black or gray water holding tanks when you go to dump them. It is also possible that while draining them, if the vent is completely clogged, then you can actually do damage to the holding tank itself or to some of the seals around the RV holding tanks. Be forewarned that if you are attempting to fill the tank from an onboard tank rinser or from a back flush style device such as a Flush King, and there's a blocked vent, you do risk damaging some of these seals or gaskets in and around the RV black tank or in the toilet itself, as these are the weak points where air might be forced out if there's nowhere for air to come into and out of the tank due to a blockage. Thanks so much for watching. We hope that you found this video to be informative about the vents in your RV's holding tanks. If you feel like we've left anything out, or if you have any questions, please feel free to comment down below. And if you would like to, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.